All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Close. It is Friday, August 16th, 3:49 p.m. Folks, we are having a hell of a market day as we get into the close. And we also had some really interesting stuff happen. So we are fighting for that $32 close right now on Palantir. Here you go. 32.03, up 2.57% on the day. We actually just went below 32, about 20 minutes ago. So if we go to this on the minute chart here, you can see we had a good day right here. 30.59 is kind of where we started off the day. Then it ramped up all the way to $32.75. That 30 was in the pre-market. So we got through 30 in the pre-markets, got to 31, got all the way to 32. We tried to make a run for 33. There were about 44,000 shares at that $33 level that we were not able to get through. And so now we're here, right here, at 32.05 instead. It looks like in the next 10 minutes, we'll have a close above 32. Even if in the after-hour session it goes below 32, we'll see what happens. But a close above 32 would be very, very important for the stock. Also, Joe Rogan just had Peter Thiel on the podcast, which is interesting. Now, for anyone who thinks they talked about Palantir, they did not. I went through the entire transcript. And I did not find anything about Palantir. Probably Peter Thiel didn't want to talk about Palantir, didn't want to get into it. He publicly doesn't really talk about them that much. But in the actual podcasts themselves, they did put Palantir's link in the description. Joe Rogan, again, this is a guy that, this is the biggest podcast in the world. So it is some exposure for Palantir, but I don't think it's the exposure he thinks it's going to be, because they don't talk about Palantir. And so they talk about like California and conspiracy theories and all this stuff, but nothing about Palantir. There it is right there. 2 links in the description, foundersfund.com and Palantir. But they don't explicitly ever talk about Palantir itself. So nothing really about Palantir to get from this, but Peter Thiel, one of the greatest investment minds of all time, 3 hours talking to Joe Rogan. I'm sure there's definitely some good stuff in there as we continue to dissect that interview, especially the parts where they talk about conspiracies, because that's always fun. Robinhood, 1995, good day for Robinhood, up 2%. We are about 9 minutes away. Let's see if we can close at 20. It's going to be tough. There's about, I think, 50,000 shares up to be sold at $20. So we'll see if that can happen. S&P 500 basically flat on the day, 553. NASDAQ 474. This was also flat. Tesla was up about 1% on the day. ASTS down about 3%. SoFi at 7. Nvidia 124. Almost broke 125. It was 124.76. But closing in at 124. Starbucks green again on the day. Snowflake a little green. Bitcoin having a nice little run up 3%. Really in the past 30 minutes. I got a bunch of notifications about Bitcoin being up. But Bitcoin was basically flat for the majority of the day. And there's not too much other price action that's that interesting besides that. Intel's up a little bit. AMD is up at 148. Dell is up at 111. That's up 1%. The indices kind of chilling out today. Individual stocks having a little bit of the run. Main story is Palantir cracking through 32 and now trying to gain some more momentum. Oh, yeah, Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab had a hell of a day as well. Rocket Lab right here, up 12%. At one point, it was up 20%, but right now, it's up 12%. Now, I showed a stat in the morning about retail and what it means for retail to be buying the dip in the context of Palantir. We saw that retail, JP Morgan said that, hey, retail is buying the dip in 4 names, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Tesla, and Palantir. Palantir was the one that shocked everybody, but about 1.3 billion out of 1.8 billion went into Palantir. Now, again, a lot of people made fun of this report because they were like, retail's buying the dip. They're going to get rug pulled. So far, retail buying the dip, and the dip was really 20 to 24, has done very well because if buying stock at 20 and then it goes higher is dumb money, then all right, cool. That'll be dumb money. By the way, Dumb Money TV, I heard, is going to do an entire podcast on Palantir in a little bit. I know 2 of the guys on Dumb. I know Chris Camillo and I know Dave Hansen. Dave and me actually did the Robinhood podcast together, Robinhood earnings in Q1. So really cool guys. They got Celsius. They do a lot of trend investing. They try to find social trends and invest based off that. We'll see what they say about Palantir, but I think that podcast will be out next week as well. And see what they have to say. Wall Street estimates for Palantir. If you take a look at it right here, you got Wedbush at 38, Bank of America 30, Raymond James at 30, Jefferies 28, Citibank 28, DA Davidson 28, Argus Research 31, Deutsche Bank 21, and our boy Rushy, RBC at $9. So a majority of the street thinking, hey, these targets are usually 1 year out. We're already at kind of the targets that the street has, but most of the street kind of agreeing with the price action that we're seeing right now because they do believe that the price should be able to get there. Dumb money is in, or are you saying dumb money is ASTS? Interesting. I mean, look, it's been doing its thing, and they got some contracts, which has helped it go up. But the question is, how much do they really? How much can they really get? Right. I mean, the stock's up almost 2,000% over the past month. Robin in 1998 trying to touch that $20 range into the close. We'll see if it can get there. I'm just gonna look at the resistance real quick. There's 20. There you go. Wow, did it just bust through 20? Dude, there's 44,000 shares at 20. I think someone's buying all of them right now. Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah, someone just bought 44,000 shares at 20. Right at the close. Well, we got 5 minutes until the close. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Got some. It's a weird on a Friday at almost 4 o'clock that they bought those shares. Isn't that weird? Like you don't really see a major price action breach right at the close on a Friday. Interesting. Wow. Now you got a ton of shares being bought at $20 right now. There's a 20,000 share bid at $20.02. That's kind of cool, dude. Right at the end, maybe shit's getting a little excited for next week, and they're just grabbing up these shares right now. Fubo did win a lawsuit. Yes, Fubo won a lawsuit, and that's why Fubo's up 17%. I've never been that interested in Fubo. I think there's like lots of other opportunities out there for investing in media, but Fubo is one of the ones that people are excited about. They did win their lawsuit that they filed, I believe, against Disney, or I don't think they won it. I have to look it up in a bit, but I think they got an injunction, something like that, and that has allowed them to gain some momentum in the broader lawsuit. I'll pull up that tweet in a second and I'll get some of the details there, but they had a really good day as well. Obviously up 17% right here. S&P 554. At one point, we had 555 on the S&P, which was amazing considering we were at 507 a couple of weeks ago. SoFi looks like it's going to probably close in that $7 range. And then Robinhood, wow. A $20 close on Robinhood and a $32 close on Palantir that it looks like it's going to happen. Palantir right here at 32.08. Nice little 7-cent margin of safety until we get to 32. We got about 4 minutes left. Let's see if we can get a $20 close on Hood and a $32 close on Palantir. It's been an exciting day, dude. It's been an exciting day for Palantir. I mean, $32. I don't think we thought that would happen that easily, but it really cracked through and it basically stayed at 32 the whole day. Pretty much the whole day, which has been very, very exciting. We'll have Steve join at 4:30. He's going to break down a lot of new due diligence he's done on data centers, energy, etc. A lot of stuff he really wants to talk about. So he'll be on at 4:30. And we'll see what he has to say. He'll also talk about Palantir because he had a bunch of covered calls. I mean, unfortunately, I'm sorry, guy. If you had $29 covered calls, $31 covered calls, it is what it is. Sometimes you have a covered call, the stock keeps running. You got to figure out how to manage it. So either you got to buy it back, pay a debit, lose a little bit of money, or roll it out. But Palantir is not cooperating with people that want to do cover calls. And realistically, if you have a big position, you should be happy that your cover calls are being challenged because that means your stock is going up, right? And you can't always get the timing right, but overall, it means your position should be doing well if the covered calls are going into the money. Is it lame that Amit and Steve discussing is the Friday highlight of my day? Hey man, that's how it should be, dude. On Friday, what are you doing other than listening to Steve and Amit, man? Like that should be the highlight of Friday. I mean, look, Steve has had some really good picks for the communities. SLG, that was old Steve. I mean, he gave us this thing when it was $19, and we saw some momentum from that. Verizon, that was Steve. I mean, he's had a lot of names, especially in the energy space and in the REIT space, that has been doing well for us. PayPal, even he's been bullish on PayPal, and I think one of the reasons PayPal went up after earnings is because he publicly came on my show and told Alex Chris he has to get his shit together. But I'm just kidding. 67.96 on PayPal. This is one of the stocks that he thinks they should just increase the buybacks, and they did. They ended up increasing the buybacks and earnings. But he's actually considering getting rid of PayPal, getting rid of Fortinet, and getting rid of a lot of other stocks to buy more Palantir and Nvidia. So he'll talk about that today because he's at this point seriously realizing that the data center revolution that Nvidia is engaging in is just undeniable. And so he's going to be very, very bullish on the future of Nvidia and data centers. Tempest AI, the stock we were talking about yesterday, healthcare AI play, up 8% on the day. Not bad. Market close in about 1 minute. Disney 89.28, Netflix 673, Google 162. Apple, what type of day did Apple have? Apple right here 225. Microsoft was 418. That's down a little bit. And then Meta 527. Okay, so Meta had a little bit of a down day, down 2%. And then Amazon also down about 0.36%. So Mag 7 took a little bit of a break today. Makes sense because the NASDAQ is flat. But Palantir and Robinhood, wow. These guys really might go for the close at 32 and 20. I'm surprised Robinhood, all those shares got bought up right at the end of the close. I mean, that's exciting. That's really exciting. And Palantir right here at $32. SPY up 4% in a week. Yeah, been one of the best weeks this year for the S&P. Up 4% in a week. It's been a hell of a week, dude. A hell of a week for the S&P, especially recovering since August 5th. All right, Friday, August 16th, 4 p.m. The stock market is now closed. So you got Palantir closing at $32. $32. Incredible. We thought we were getting greedy at 31. We got 32. Robinhood closes right at 1998. That was to be expected if it was that tight of a bid in the ass at that $20 mark. But the fact that it got to 20 and had a lot of shares ended up getting eaten up. Not bad. After hours at $20.01 on Robinhood, and on Palantir down a little bit after hours, but at $32.06. $32 close, $20 close for Robinhood. These are really important sort of psychological barriers for both stocks. Palantir normalizing 30 this entire week. Palantir closed above $30, which is just incredible, dude. I mean, like, I don't think a lot of us thought, hey, this was going to be the week where we normalize. I thought we would, go down a little bit, teeter-totter between 28 and 31. Nope. This entire week we have had $30 closes, which has been crazy, except on Monday. I think Monday we closed at like 29.30. Yeah, Monday we were down 2%, but after that, it's just been up and up into the 30s. Mag 7, Apple's up about 0.5%. Microsoft's down a little bit. Meta's down a little bit. Google up 1%. Amazon down 0.3%. Nvidia up 1.4%. And Tesla up 0.92% on the day. Crypto plays all did pretty well. Bitcoin up 3%. Coinbase at 205. CleanSpark at 1184. MicroStrategy at 133. Bitfarms here at 239. And then Robinhood here, $20 after hours, 1998 on the close. Not a bad week, guys. Not a bad week for the bulls. Where does SoFi close? We got Bitcoin here at 59,000, S&P at 554. SoFi closed right at 7, up 1.3%. Right at 7 for SoFi. Netflix right here at 674. Buffett sold Snowflake, correct. We talked about that a lot this morning. He did indeed get rid and sell Snowflake. There you go. We got Chad in the chat. There's the boom. There's the boom, boom, boom. Palantir, $32. Really exciting stuff, dude. For the week, Palantir, I believe, is up about 8%, 6% over the past week. And again, year to date, I mean, look at this chart, dude. I tweeted today. I feel like I want to run 32 miles for some reason. Maybe I need to run 93 miles because we were up 93% year to date. If you had, dude, the amount of people that were in my DMs, like professional, like money managing people, when Palantir was $22, and like they're like, Amit, we care about you. You need to like sell this. You need to like this is overvalued. I'm just like, the same thing with the Robinhood. They said the same thing. I'm just like, dude, like, I don't think you get it. You could manage whatever money you want to manage, but these are two companies that you really have to understand at a fundamental level, and you can't use traditional valuation metrics to figure out how the street is thinking of it. You just can't, especially when they're both Robinhood and Palantir are re-accelerating growth. They both fell to like purgatory levels, literally at the same price, $7, $8 for almost 18 months. Both of them. Robinhood, I think, was like 2 years. Palantir was a year and a half, and then they broke out. They became GAAP profitable. They started growing. They started executing. Two founders, and there you go. They're leading the charge. Palantir up 93% year to date. We did have someone I showed you guys on Twitter who sold his entire position at 31.90. Very interesting stuff. And again, I talked about it this morning. I just think the logic on doing that is trying to time it in. This is just not one of those stocks you time. I just don't think it's one of the stocks you try to time. Palantir to 40 before the end of the year. Again, if this price action continues and the growth is there and the rate establish a precedent for higher equity valuations, again, when rates come down, you need to have money getting a yield. And if the yield is not attractive in money markets, which I think it still is attractive, even if you don't get 5.5%, But still, more money wants to get into different avenues of distribution. Palantir ends up being a beneficiary of that. When do you think Palantir will be included in the S&P 500? Again, we don't know. We'll find out September 6th. I do think there's a shot. It's just I've said this for a while. It's the institutional ownership of Palantir will be the second lowest in the S&P if they get included. And I don't know if the committee likes that. Now, granted, the committee has accepted a lot of weird, like, does GoDaddy really deserve to be one of the top 500 companies of America? I don't know. I think it's a little bit backwards looking, but it's what they choose to do. So until at one point it will be undeniable. Like, they won't, like, same thing with Tesla. Like, they just have to engage in that. The problem is we don't know when that's going to be the case. So if that is the case on September 6th, then that would be awesome. And then we're in, and maybe this run really is just the run before the S&P, because that's how I'm kind of trying to justify a little bit of how this run is playing out. If it's not, then it's just a run we're having. And I guess we'll see a separate run after we get potentially included, but that might just take until 2025. I think 2025, no matter what, we're getting in. End of 2024, we're going to have to end up seeing. What stock is number one with the most retail investors? Tesla. I believe Tesla is number one. I don't know if Palantir is number two, but I know Tesla is number one in the context of retail shareholders. Palantir right here, 32.02 after hours. Fubo up 17%. Fubo TV wins bid to block Disney, Fox, Warner sports streaming platform over antitrust concerns. Okay, so this is what I thought. So this was the bid they had against Disney, Fox, and Warner Sports, basically coming together and saying we were going to put all of our bundling, all of our sports, so that you would pay one subscription. Fubo, which live sports is kind of their moat, has basically said that's, an antitrust problem. This lawsuit happened back in March, so it's been a while, but the judge ruled today that Disney can't have the collaboration. Even if that's the case, again, the bull case for Fubo, it's a media company. I don't really see it. Netflix is the only media company that I like that is actually worth paying a subscription for. Not that Fubo is not worth paying for. It's just the stock over time. It's not the most exciting opportunity. Now, granted, is it cheap? Price to sales of 0.3, market cap of 507 million. I'll look at the growth. I think the revenue growth is above 50%. Yeah, you could argue it's probably at $1.54 cheap. But I don't know if the large potential that is out there for, massive gains in the industry necessarily exists in Fubo. But that is a big win today for the Disney lawsuit. QQQ 475 on the day. Rocket Lab, again, up 12.5%. So a massive close on Rocket Lab as well on the day. Chris CRM says, I'm still waiting for the mid-size biotech run. So many are down or sideways. Yeah, XBI is the ETF for biotech. Really, it's been flat most of the year. I mean, for the year, XBI is, it's up 8%. So you have a little bit of momentum there. At April 24th, it was down. Over the past 1 year, it's up 25%. And over the past month, it's down 4%. So we have seen it catch a bid. Biotech, again, is very interesting because, like, you need a lot of capital market participation for biotech to gain momentum. And XBI is a big part of IWM, which, by the way, let's look at small caps. IWM right here up about 0.28%. You would think IWM rallies a bit more into the close, especially after all that good data, but not too much of a run for IWM. KRE and XBI are two elements of the IWM small caps, regional banks, and biotech. I think when we see biotechs take off, that means there's lots of liquidity entering the market, which, again, you need rate cuts to be able to stabilize that, because a lot of these biotech companies are losing money and they need to borrow capital. The cost of capital needs to come down for them to effectively borrow capital, and they need to dilute shareholders. They need to raise money. This is kind of just the process of what it takes to make a really successful drug. So XBI relatively flat on the year. It is up 8%, which is nice, but I think when rate cuts come into the calendar, that one catches a little bit more of a bid. Jose, what's up? He said, great week. Let's celebrate. Jose yeah, Jose, I know you're celebrating, dude. Nvidia is up 37% from the August lows. It's up about 32% in the past 9 trading sessions. I mean, dude, it's incredible. 124.58. And now on earnings, dude, if Nvidia, like, I think the bull case now going into the end of the year is Nvidia crushing earnings, like really crushing earnings, because then you got a market that's thinking, all right, rate cuts are down the pipe. Nvidia's crushed earnings. Guidance is good. And there's probably going to be at least reasonable earnings growth going into Q3. And if the consumer is not in a horrible position, well, there you go. That's your bull case for the rest of the year. The question is just going to be what happens with the election and how many rate cuts do we get by Powell? And I think those are going to be sort of the broader determining factors on how it all plays out. Here's Bank of America on what they think about a upcoming recession. They're relatively bullish, and they kind of think most of the data we got this week takes away the need to worry or panic about a recession.
Today, B of A Securities Senior U.S. Economist Aditya Bave. It's good to have you back. I love your line here in talking about the recent data. Just take a deep breath.
Yes, thank you for having me. So the data this week were basically good news, right? Start with inflation. Inflation was soft, with a caveat around housing inflation being higher than expected, but broadly soft enough that the Fed can start cutting rates. And at the same time, the activity data were solid. Jobless claims coming down, much less worrying than they were a couple weeks ago, and retail sales quite solid. They were expected to be closer to flat, and we actually saw a pretty good increase. So you put all of that together, the labor market, the consumer holding up pretty well, looks like a soft landing, and again, no need to panic about a recession just yet.
What about IP, which has surprised to the downside in July? How much of a factor is that for you in your outlook for the rest of the year?
Yes, it did surprise a bit to the downside, but we have to note that it was coming off multi-year highs in May and June. So this looks more like normalization, some seasonality around auto production, not anything we're too worried about. And again, it's a relatively small share of the economy, right? So remember that the manufacturing ISM was under 50 all of last year, and we still grew at 3%. So ultimately, I think it's going to be the labor market and the consumer that really drives the cycle.
As far as signaling cuts from here, whether that's the minutes or the Fed chair's remarks, it does seem like you're focusing on the potential use of the word close or very close, right?
Yes, so there's a few ways in which Powell can signal a cut at Jackson Hole. He probably doesn't want to be too committal about it because, for one, he doesn't want to front run the committee, and two, especially in terms of the size of the cut, there's no reason for him to plant a flag right now before he sees the August jobs data on the 6th of September. So he can signal a cut by saying, look, we're getting close, we're getting very close to that point where we start cutting rates. He may even say something a little bit more dovish, like we want to be a little bit more preemptive about labor market, potential labor market weakness. But beyond that, we don't think there'll be a strong commitment from Powell.
Do you think August jobs is going to connote some additional weakness after that July print?
We don't have a forecast yet. We are not convinced that it's going to be a particularly weak report just because of what we've seen in jobless claims and also because of some idiosyncrasies in the July data that should reverse. So we don't have a forecast yet, but I would say the base case for now is that it isn't particularly soft, is not particularly soft.
And I guess somewhat reassuring was claims going back to July levels, although I don't know whether you at this point you're putting value on claims because of the high frequency or because of some of the weather related patterns and disruptions we might have seen.
Right. So the worry was that claims had moved up to 250,000, which is around the level where you start getting a little bit uncomfortable. Now, we did get up there last summer as well. So maybe there's some residual seasonality in the data, and then we moved down as we got into the fall. So the question was, would that happen again, or would we continue to move up to 300, 350, which would be levels much more consistent with the recession? The fact that you've gone from 250 back down to 227 from our perspective is quite encouraging.
I agree with a lot of what he's saying. And when you put all that data together, it's kind of the same stuff we've been saying for the past couple of days. The data we got with CPI this week, jobs data, and then retail sales and consumer sentiment this morning came in good. You put it all together, dude. If NVIDIA crushes, I think we have a good earnings. And we'll see how this ends up playing out. Steve will be on at 4:30. I just asked Matt to join and get some of his thoughts on Rocket Lab today, given Rocket Lab had a good day. Matt, let me call you on WhatsApp and see if you'll pick up there. Let's see if we can get his take on what's going on right now. But yeah, Steve will be on at 4:30, and we'll talk a little bit more energy stuff and Nvidia because he keeps nagging about Nvidia.
Hi. Hold on, let me mute you.
Matt, are you backstage with the TX in your username?
No, don't. That person's probably going to show their genitals. You don't want that.
No, it's someone else, and I was just like, all right, because you're in. Okay, so I thought that was you. All right,
Did
so
you send a StreamYard? Sorry, I'm just chilling on the couch watching you on the big screen, my guy.
all right, well now you're on the big screen. Rocket Lab had a big move up almost. Well, at one point 20%, closing at 12%.
Yeah.
Why? Because I still don't know why. Why did it go up today so much?
You know, it's a great day. I want to congratulate everybody. You know, I think it's something that can obviously retrace. You know, so for those people, you know, might take some time to think about whether or not they want to get in it for the long haul. But you know, short term, you know, looks pretty good. There's been a couple articles. Obviously, I think it's the reaching out of obviously Sir Peter Beck and Adam last week that got a lot of publicity. But then coupling that with a few news articles and sources that came out, you know, talking about raising their price targets to $9, and then obviously that gave a little bit of love over the past few days after the earnings report as well. Obviously, up 70% in terms of revenue, but I think all those things kind of coupled got some eyes on it, and with that, I think the volume started to go up. People are looking at the options chains that are out there, and I think Wall Street Bets picked up on that piece. And so
you think Wall Street Bets is in on Rocket Lab?
I think there's some visibility. They're posted about it on the Reddit. So I think that's been an increase in the volume. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, if you guys like ASTS, which obviously congrats to those guys that have been investing there, you know, they're up handsomely for those that have been in there for a while. It's a shame. I know a couple guys that were in there and they liquidated their positions to go buy houses or something like that. But, you know, they're like, well, if you like ASTS and it doesn't have revenue yet, it's just future potential, then you're going to love Rocket Lab because it's already making $400 million a year and trailing or getting close to trailing 12-month revenue. So
yeah, there's a guy who turned 856,000 into 6 million on ASTS on Wall Street Bets as well. So I mean, like, yeah. So do you okay? So before we keep going into Rocket Lab, quickly on ASTS, does that deserve to go up 2,600% in 2 months, in your opinion?
You know, I'm not going to downplay the potential for
no. You are the cult leader of a competitor, so we need you to do. This is how it works, Matt. I don't think you get it. This is how it works. Like, we hate Snowflake for a reason. So ASTS is the enemy.
I appreciate the kind words. I actually had a good. Steve called me earlier. We had a good hour conversation, just shooting the shit over lunch. So I'm excited to hear him come on in about 20 minutes. But in terms of cult leader, yeah, I mean,
you are the cult leader, right? You understand that, right? Like,
I'm just a guy in Texas that, you know, likes to watch you on stream. You know, what can I say?
That is interesting. But no, this is your moment. You're the guy. If this thing goes to the moon, everyone's going to give you and Vince the credit. So, you know, it is what it is.
I appreciate that. But, you know, at the same time, as much as you guys want to give me credit, I'm not the one turning the knobs and putting the rockets in space. You know, those are the guys that are actually the ones that are deserving of credit. And they're working really hard. And I think it's really justified. I still think the company is extremely undervalued, especially if you're looking 5-10 years down the road. But getting back to your actual question about ASTS, I mean, in respect to that, do I think that there's a lot of potential there? Absolutely. But do I think that it's a little bit forward to say, I mean, I don't know if the market cap's up at 8 billion or what have you, but
8 billion.
It's essentially 2.5x what Rocket Lab is today. Fortunately, we got up close to 3 billion, 3.5 billion at the peak probably today. If you think about it, it's 2.5x Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab's actually sending rockets into space. They're actually sending satellites to the moon. They're sending satellites here to Mars with the New Glenn rocket that Jeff Bezos was kind enough to show everybody the other day on YouTube. And then, you know, they're sending satellites to Jupiter. You know, Rocket Lab's doing the same thing. Why isn't Rocket Lab getting an $8, $9, $10 billion valuation like ASTS? And I'm not saying that ASTS is not going to be worth that someday. I just think it's a little early. and I think it's got the visibility of some key folks, and it could grow into something that's huge in the long run. But I just think it's a little bit forward at the moment.
Okay, so is Rocket
But
Lab?
Congratulations to the people that have done well.
Is Rocket Lab catching a bid from the ASTS hype, or what is the reason it's up 12%?
I think so. I think everybody in space right now is catching a little bit of love. Black Sky caught some love. Planet Lab caught some love. And I think it's warranted. A lot of these companies, unfortunately, have been beaten down very severely to the point where a lot of them, I think, are undervalued. Black Sky and Planet Lab are actually becoming EBITDA positive sort of companies. And so not too far from where Palantir was 2 years ago when they just started hitting GAAP earnings, right? And so, these guys within the next year or so will be generating positive net income. And, I think it's warranted. These guys are actually hugely fundamental for whether you're looking at it from a weather and climate perspective and monitoring the Earth, or whether you're looking at it from a military Department of Defense perspective, where you're trying to just keep the West safe. Keeping in mind Palantir, right? Palantir was a Black Sky investor not too long ago, and I think still is a big reason why the operating system at Black Sky is doing so well. The company itself is doing well, so that's interrelated. But I think space has been beaten down because you have seen some consolidation and a lot of people drop out of the race and bankruptcies. And I think right now people are starting to see a shine in something like an ASTS, which then brings shine onto something like Rocket Lab, which is executing, and they're executing well. And I think it's just a little bit of a pendulum swing. Is there retracements possible? Absolutely. With things like this, expect volatility for sure. But I think it's nice just to get some eyes on the company and maybe a little bit more love into the valuation, which I think was so undervalued before.
Do you don't think it's overvalued, Rocket Lab, right now?
No, definitely not. I mean, I guess if you want to look at it from a specific valuation perspective in terms of like, are they generating cash, etc. I would say, of course, everybody that says it's unprofitable would say an unprofitable company deserves a valuation of 0 in that respect. But if you think about it from the lens of where they are in terms of the competition, you have SpaceX, which is an obvious first, right? We're not going to downplay that. $200 billion market cap valuation, $8.5 billion of revenue last year. Who knows what they're going to make this year? And then you have everybody else in the space, but on top of that is Rocket Lab.
Right.
Now, I'll give you a statistic, which was in the earnings presentation, but I think it's a very powerful statistic. So obviously everyone knows that the majority of launches in the US come from the Falcon 9 rocket and SpaceX. If you remove that, out of all the other competitors, Rocket Lab owns 64% of the market share. Now everyone's going to sit there and be like, well, that's a garbage metric. It is a garbage metric. But at the same time, it shows you there's a predominant leader going for number 2. And so if you think about the realm of valuations, which is anywhere from between 0 billion to 200 billion, like SpaceX, why would the number 2 competitor in the space only be worth $3 billion? And so that's my kind of question. And I think what you're going to see, and the reason why it's undervalued comparatively to, say, other companies out there like ASTS and et cetera, is you don't have these showman Silicon Valley marketing types out there trying to hype up the stock. What they're doing and spending their time and effort in is actually delivering, right? They're actually getting to the place where they could be the first rocket to launch to 50 launches successfully, faster than the Falcon 9 rocket that SpaceX did. They're going to be the first one to get to 100 faster than the Falcon 9 SpaceX rocket did. They're building space systems that can be lasting and operate them and build an end-to-end space company. They have 6 different variations of their satellite that you can call them up and they'd have it ready for you in 6 months. I mean, these are the people that are legit building an actual business that's lasting. They're not here to try to get you to be showmanship, SPAC. They were SPACs. I mean, but most SPACs are all show, no go.
Right.
This is the exact opposite. These guys are actually delivering, And for anybody that's saying, well, you know, they're burning cash, etc., they have an extensive runway. They have $550 million of cash on the balance sheet. And, you know, some people might be sitting there being like, well, you know, they're burning cash. Everybody else is running out of cash. Velo 3D had to do a reverse stock split and still has no money. Astra went private at $11 million. You have all these other companies. And so a lot of people, you know, Rocket Lab's in a very good position right now where they have 550 million. They need another 50 to 75 million to get Neutron to launch next year, which I'm confident they're at. They've spent 200 some to date. They only need 300 or so to get it there.
Someone said Rocket Lab is the Neo to SpaceX's Tesla. Would you agree with that?
I'm not an expert in the EV market, but you know what I will say is if you're in, I guess what I'm saying is if you're looking at nice houses and you're looking at real estate, to me, Rocket Lab is an A+ company. SpaceX is an A+ company. It should be worth way more. And another catalyst that I think will get everybody's eyes open. There's a lot of catalysts for Rocket Lab at the time being right now that need to come forward and actually get realized before I think the stock hits 10 to $20 billion in the next couple of years, which I think it will. I think it'll be a 3 to 5x here in rather short order. There's the HASTE, which is the suborbital launch vehicle that is designed from an Electron, but designed to basically go suborbital for testing for ballistics or gliders and stuff like that. That's going to be huge. In the next 6 months, there's going to be 3 different contracts started, one for the DoD and some for other folks, also for potentially for other countries as well. We had that conversation with the interview last week with Peter and Adam, and I think that that's a huge backlog item that people don't even have on their radar that we'll start to see more and more out of the next 6 months. We've only launched 1 HASTE rocket to date. There's going to be 3 to 4 in the next 6 months, and I think that's going to unlock a huge backlog. And you can launch those things like because you're not going to space, you can launch them way quicker. You don't necessarily have to wait as much on payload, because a lot of the problems with all the cadence associated with the launches is associated, does the person have the satellite ready and all those things. So if you just are launching ballistics or gliders or something like that, that market's already been built out by Lockheed and many others, by the Department of Defense. So if you need to test something, you know, you'll have a lot of things to test with the HASTE missions. And that, right, you know, those launches are not cheap. I mean, those launches are millions of dollars themselves. And so that unlocking of huge contracts is billions of dollars, in my opinion, on its own. And I don't think people are accounting for that. I think everyone just thinks, oh, it's a small launch rocket, it's a medium launch rocket, and they have some solar panels. It's like, no, these guys are the real deal. They're literally trying to be, they're a few years behind SpaceX. I mean, if you just want to put it that way, that's just what it is. SpaceX has their medium launch vehicle. I mean, now SpaceX, 5 years, 6 years down the road, now they're on to bigger and better things. If there's the way that I like the way that this is a key thing, right? I had a good question. So September 2022, there was an investor presentation by Rocket Lab. There was, are we going to do human spaceport travel or anything like that? I asked that question bluntly. They're like, yeah, we're ready for humans if we need to. Well, there's no market for it. So these guys are smart. They will focus and make sure they're able and capable to do something, but they won't do it unless there's money to be made, which I think is genius, right? Like, you know, and so if they see a market coming for an interplanetary sort of thing and Elon opens up that market and people go for it, they might build a heavy launch vehicle. Who the hell knows? But for right now, they don't see a market for a heavy launch vehicle. And the reason why they actually ended up doing the heavy launch vehicle, the only reason why they're doing the medium launch is because they figured out that, okay, people don't want to launch 2, 3, 4 satellites at a time. They want to launch 20 satellites at a time. And so now that market is open, and to be very frank, it's still growing, because if you think about how many launches that SpaceX does, 80% of their launches are for Starlink. So if you think about in terms of the amount of launches, if they were to only launch other people's satellites, they'd launch only 1/5 the amount of launches that they actually do today. And so the thought process is like that is now getting to a place where you need multiple players, which is why they're building the medium launch vehicle. And so I think that there's a lot of catalysts. In 24 months, we'll know a lot more. Cash flow break even. Is the Neutron rocket successful? Have they gotten contracts? Haste. What other sort of contracts that they'll have without out there in the market? I think it's going to move very quickly. I think this is just the start. Personally, it's nice to see the stock up 25% in a day or so, or 2 days or so. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a journey closer to 25 or $30 a share, not to $6 or $7 a share.
What do you think about Palantir at $32 a share? Do you think it's too aggressive, or do you think it's justified?
I think it goes back to what we've been seeing with me and you having conversations over the last 18 months about it's starting to get more, it used to be the black box company. Jim Cramer talked about that. But I think people are starting to recognize that these guys are really the people that are actually putting AI into the hands of the common person, right? Instead of having to be able to create your own AI or your own technical firm or anything like that, you can leverage what Palantir does with Foundry, Gotham, etc., and really get after it. People think that AIP was really the how do I say it? AIP was the unlocker for AI for Palantir, but AIP is just a chatbot prompter for connectivity between the AI that's already built into Foundry and Gotham, and I think people aren't necessarily thinking about that. So in terms of revenue, Palantir has always been an AI company. They've always been utilizing the data and been able to analyze, and I think that really what's put it on the map is the ability and ease for people to leverage that with AIP. But at the end of the day, I think it's really people catching on to the Foundry and the Gotham products that are really driving it forward. Because those at the end of the day are the engines, right? The AIP just makes it more accessible. It makes it more commonplace for people that are less technical, like myself, because I'm pretty much an idiot. But at the end of the day, I think it's just the eyes of people, the retail investors holding on to their shares. I think people are starting to recognize that this is a company to not be messed with, and they actually deserve to be at least aiming towards. I think people were like, is this going to be a $100 billion company? I think people are starting to recognize that there's potential for this thing to be half a trillion to $1 trillion company one day. And I think people are starting to actively recognize that. So instead of trading the stock, I think a lot of people are actually saying, oh shit, this thing's actually going to be worth something. Let me hold on to it for a while.
It is pretty exciting, dude. It is pretty exciting, and it does seem like the street's starting to see more of its potential. And again, the reaccelerating growth part, I think, is the exciting part that the street's liking a lot more.
Well, how's your portfolio, man? I've double checked earlier today. I was about 1% from all time highs, not recognizing that the S&P is still a little bit down.
So I hit all time highs at the top of July. So we are down about 15% from that. Now my portfolio is a little bit more options heavy, so obviously the volatility is rough there. But I think if the year ends out the way it ends out, again, Palantir and Robinhood is basically my portfolio. Palantir to 40, Robinhood to 25. If that happens, even Palantir, if it just stays right here, it can be a very exciting portfolio year for me. And I think the big thing we're trying to dissect every day on the show is, can the market actually protect these gains in 2024? Or do we have to give all of it back? Because we gave a lot of it back on August 5th, but we just got a lot of it back, in the past couple of days or past couple of weeks.
Well, it's surprising that you're still down so much. Is Robinhood still lagging? Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, Robinhood was at 24, and the options on that were, pretty gigantic. So the that coming down to 16 and making its way back to 19 has helped recover. But
is it 19 only?
1950. Well, it closed at 1998 today. But that was a serious drawdown, and same thing with Palantir. Now Palantir recovered a lot quicker, which is good, but Robinhood's more speculative on the bull market thesis being intact. Which brings up my next question for you. Do you think we end the year in a bull market? We got a lot of retail sales data, labor market data, or are you in the camp that this could be a dead cat bounce going into the election?
I was so I last week I set myself up for success, right? I waffled. I basically said, well, because where we were last week or earlier this week before we really started, before we got the note on Tuesday about CPI, or maybe it was Wednesday, I don't remember, but basically we were sitting in between no man's land. We were below the 50-day moving average for the SPY.
Yep.
We were way above the 200, and so my thought process was we get CPI and we spike through the 50-day moving average, we're going to go back to all-time highs. Whether or not we persist beyond that is a question I'll reserve for a week and a half from now when we get there. But I'm confident we'll hang out. I mean, I don't see any, unless there's some sort of war. I think that the consumer's in a relatively good place. I just went to Dutch Bros when I was on the phone with Steven. I was one of 7 people in line. Consumers not hurting there. Maybe it's just Dutch Bros, but I'm still not seeing people penny pinching or anything like that, like I saw in 2022. I think people, there was a little bit of a lag, I think, in salaries and stuff like that. I personally experienced that as well in 2023. Small raise, 2024 big raise to help compensate for all the inflation that we saw. I think a lot of people are in the same boat with that. What I am starting to see, which I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, is I am starting to see prices come down in a lot of these, like McDonald's, Taco Bell, et cetera, like that. Obviously, they were gouging, in my opinion, and they're starting to kind of come back down, offer value menus and stuff of the like. To me, I think that that's going to allow the consumer to stay stronger for longer. And with that, I think you'll end up, I want to say the Fed is giving us an opportunity to have a soft landing with this whole thing. But
do you think we get a soft landing? Do you think they pull it off?
Dude, I think if it's anything, it's because of the resiliency of the consumer, not because of the Fed. The Fed has not been, in my opinion, been giving themselves favors. I mean, I'm in this housing development here. I've been living in this housing development for 6 or 7 months. When I bought my house, rates were relatively low, relatively, over the past 2 years. When rates went to 8%, people bought a lot during my time frame. December, January, February, March. As soon as we got to the middle of last year, when rates went to 8%, 8.5%, nobody bought houses. And to be frank, a lot of the houses that are still for sale are still sitting because people are still waiting for rates to come down. So because rates have yet to come down, and everyone knows and everyone has known for the last 18 months that they're, eventually going to come down, I think they're only dragging on the delay of what they're doing. So I understand what they're doing. They're trying to make sure, 2% means 2% for them. And I understand they don't want to have inflation persist in the mid 2s forever. But at the same time, I am starting to see like some holes in the armor show up with respect to unemployment and local companies starting to get back to, well, if we're going to have to cut prices and demand is slowing, we're going to have to cut clients and we're going to have to cut employees, et cetera. I just don't think it's happening at a large level as of yet. So I don't know. I believe, to answer your question, soft landing for right now. If you'd asked me about 6 months ago, I was probably in the era of things are going to get tough. But I really say this 2Q earnings has really gotten me really optimistic with seeing small cap growth, with seeing large cap growth. I still think that we're okay.
Do you think Nvidia crushes in Q3?
Man, you ask Steven. I don't know how much he's going to say. He I'm sure you had a conversation. I talked to him, and he's got me all fired up.
Right? That's what I'm saying. That's why he's about to get the chat fired up for the next hour on Nvidia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I don't have shares after talking to him. Now, he's got a lot more of the quantitative analysis on it, but qualitatively, he's making a lot of sense just from me listening to him. And, I'm just a Steven fanboy all over anyway. The guy's just a good all-around guy, and he also knows what the hell he's talking about. And then for anybody that's not following him on Seeking Alpha, you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm just going to put that out there. But anyway, I'll reserve the right for Steven to explain that one. And that might be a good transition for you to give him a call.
All right, there we go. Matt Money.
I appreciate it though, man. I didn't realize I just like chimed in and leaned back. I just finished lunch and I was like, let me see what this beautiful headed Indian guy is talking about. And next thing you know, I'm getting a phone call. It's a great day.
All right, I appreciate it. Matt Money's Twitter is in the chat. Make sure you follow him there. If you care about Rocket Lab at all, and obviously Palantir, give this guy a follow. And yeah, Matt, I'm serious. You're the guy. It's your world, dude. You can be humble about it, but this is your cult. You are leading it. If Rocket Lab news breaks, like for example, when Robinhood shut down 24-hour trading in August when Iran was being crazy, I was the one that got 1,000 DMs saying they were going to kill me. So if Rocket Lab, something happens, but then if something good happens, you're also, it's like, you gotta just embrace it. You're that guy.
Hey man, you gotta be somewhat humble. You can't get too high when you're up. You can't get too low when you're down. At the end of the day, I'm just the guy that's really cheering on the folks and the engineers that are putting the things up into space, and they're the real heroes, and it'll be fun.
Dude, but when Rocket Lab is $25, like, it's gonna be pretty cool for you, I mean,
I won't be calling you from Houston. I'll be calling you from another beach house or something.
You have 25,000 shares now? Or 20,000?
I wish. No, only 18,005, 19,005, one of the two. I have to double check. But no, I haven't gotten to 25 yet. But it is actually, believe it or not, hopefully it doesn't go up too much because you might have to kick me off Palantir Weekly. It's almost my largest individual stock position.
No, well, I mean, Palantir is you bought it a little bit higher than Rocket Lab on the actual share price, so I can see that, and you have a lot more shares, so
a little bit more shares. Yeah, I wish I had as many shares in Palantir because that's the problem. Like Palantir, I feel like I don't have to watch as like a hawk anymore.
Yeah.
2 years ago we were watching it like a hawk, like, oh, they're gonna get profitable. What's the deal? But now they're profitable. I mean, the net income margin for them is starting to get so good. It's kind of just on standby, you just let it go and do its thing. It's like a teenager. You kind of did as much as you can. You kind of just have to let it grow up now. Rocket Lab, it's still a baby. Like, I feel like I need to go get some formula at the store. And, it took its first steps today. So I'm like, all right, like, we're getting ready to get to the big boy pants next year. But we're not there yet. We're still potty training and making sure we get to 100 launches faster than anybody else. We're training them to be like, I don't know what's better to train them. I don't know if I should be an F1 driver. I guess we should just train it to be a good rocket scientist. How about that?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Matt. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, you rock. I look forward to hearing about Steven.
All right. See you.
Cheers.
Matt Money is a good guy, man. And Rocket Lab is doing its thing. And yeah, the only reason I know about it is because of Matt. So like it was not on my radar until Matt really got me to think about it more. All right, Steve, in a couple of minutes, I want to play a clip of someone who's a bit more bearish on the economy and get his take today, Bob Elliott. Let's see his perspective here, what he thinks about kind of what has happened over the past couple of days and where his head is in regards to the rally we've seen over the past couple of weeks.
You look across assets, including gold, which continues to rip higher.
Yeah, well, I think gold is a very interesting story, totally underrepresented in the vast majority of investors' portfolios. And it pushing highs is a reminder that one of the best assets, most diversifying assets you can have in your portfolio is gold, relative in particular to bonds here, where, I think gold might be sniffing out some of the tail risks that are still present there. And so that's why you're seeing the bid in a way that, bonds are probably overpricing that dynamic. And so if you have the ability to rotate your positioning, moving a bit away from bonds where they are currently priced with all those cuts priced in, to gold, which still, while it's making new highs, could still easily have considerably more room to run given how underrepresented it is in most portfolios.
Tracy, how much does Powell at Jackson Hole matter?
The gold part is interesting. I did not expect gold to be running at the level that it's at, but it is telling us there's a little bit of uncertainty in regards to how they think about the money printing cycle and obviously what they think will happen when we get rate cuts. Geopolitically, Iran, Israel has been pretty much not a big deal this week. And hopefully that stays the case. And, we continue to have less interruptions across the world. All right, let's bring him on. He's the guy, the one everyone's been waiting for, because for some reason we all love listening to him. Even me, I'll pick up his phone call at 7:20 in the morning with a massive headache. He didn't even know I had a headache. I didn't tell him at the time. I didn't tell him I had a headache, but I had a massive headache when he called me, but I still listened to his DD at 7:20 a.m. Mr. Steven Fiorillo.
It definitely wasn't 7:20 in the morning.
It was 7:20. It was 7:20. It was like 7:40.
Yeah,
whatever.
You look. There's 0% chance it was 7:20.
It was. Oh yeah, 7:50.
I wasn't even in the car by then.
Okay, it was 7:50. It was 7:50.
There you go.
Steve, you got to lower the webcam a little bit because you look like a toddler right now.
Man, being a toddler would be so amazing.
Okay, so you have been texting and calling all week. Unfortunately, it's been a really busy week, so I haven't been able to really talk to you about this particular topic.
Yeah, I know. Fanatics Fest is going on right now.
No, it's not about Fanatics Fest.
Have you seen how big this is and how crazy this is?
I've seen some stuff on Twitter about it. It is a big deal. You are right.
I would love for Michael Rubin to take Fanatics public.
I wouldn't mind that either. But you've been texting me about a lot of stuff around NVIDIA. So, I mean, there's a lot to get into, but we'll start the conversation here. What research have you come across over the past couple of days that is making you want to sell a lot of your positions and buy more NVIDIA?
Well, I will say something. I am no longer oh, that may not be true. As of tomorrow, I will no longer be a shareholder of Fortinet because my call options got called away at some point today. I don't know if it actually hit the account or not, but I decided not to re-up it because I'm going to probably just roll that into NVIDIA.
Okay. So why are you so comfortable letting Fortinet go for NVIDIA?
Well, I mean, look, I caught a pretty big run. I think it can go higher, but I just don't know how much higher it can go. And my average price was around 57.50 or 58.50. So, caught a pretty massive spike after earnings, and I think it runs higher. But if I had a bet, which I pretty much am at the moment, I think over the next month, NVIDIA has more firepower than Fortinet to go higher. So,
okay. So, what's going on? Why is the bullish sentiment around NVIDIA getting even higher for you?
So, when you listen to all these analysts talk about NVIDIA, you just hear a common theme, correct?
Yeah, which is
CapEx is the common theme, right?
Right. Correct.
Nobody, at least, I'm sure there are people that have gone a couple of steps further. But at least from what I've heard, I haven't heard anybody really discuss what is being talked about on the energy side. And when I started looking at what people are talking about on the energy side, it makes me very bullish for what I think that's going to translate to for NVIDIA.
Well, that's a big deal, right? Trump and Elon on the spaces, they both agreed energy matters. Whoever the president's going to be, they have to have a focus on energy if they're going to be tech friendly and care about AI. So your argument is that we need to deeply look into energy and the implications of it to understand NVIDIA, correct?
Look, I have been saying for years, I have investments in renewables. I have been saying for years that we need more of everything ex coal. The focus should be on eliminating coal over time and more renewables and more natural gas to fill the void.
Right.
But regardless, when I look at what I'm trying to get the exact numbers with Chevron, I don't remember where I wrote them down, but all right, we'll just go into Southern Company since I have that up. So basically, I started looking at what these companies were saying on their conference calls and excluding all the CapEx, especially Amazon saying that they spent $30.5 billion in the first half of 2024, and they expect to spend more in the second half. Southern Company is one of the largest utility companies in the U.S. So,
by the way, put in the chat if you knew Southern Company, if you ever heard of this energy company.
So, if you look at the XLU, that's the Spider Utilities Sector ETF. and you look at their holdings, NextEra Energy is number 1 and Southern Company is number 2. So I'm a shareholder of Southern Company. I really like that company. And I look at their conference calls. They said on the Q2 conference call that sales to existing data centers in Q2, and when they say sales, they mean electricity.
Right.
Okay? Sales to data centers in Q2 increased 17% year over year.
Wow.
Okay. So now that means there's more of a draw of electricity that they're selling to them because they just require more electricity with expansion.
Right.
That's not even the most bullish thing that they said. Over the next decade, they currently have 200 projects in their pipeline. Well, they said nearly. So the quote was nearly 200 projects. I'm going to speculate that nearly means 180 because we don't necessarily know what that means. And over 30 gigawatts of potential load. Now, 40% of their nearly 200 projects and 80% of the entire projected electric load are from data centers. So if I speculate that nearly means 180, that means 72 of these projects are new data centers or expansion to existing data centers, because we don't necessarily know what a project consists of, but it is either expanding a data center or a new data center. So what we know is that they're projecting 80% of the new electric load is going to be required for data centers. And those are the contracts that are getting filled. So when I look at that, and then I look at CapEx being spent and what the tech CEOs and CFOs and COOs are saying on the conference calls, I don't think that this NVIDIA play is anywhere done, because there's a lot of demand on the electricity side that's starting to get contracted for years down the road.
So you're saying there's kind of a backlog of electricity demand for the infrastructure to support the data centers, the buildings, the factories, et cetera. And that can't be ignored when we look at NVIDIA's forward guidance, which is what the street is going to go crazy about if they raise those numbers.
Yeah, I don't know if people are looking 2 or 3 derivatives down. I'm looking at what the pipeline companies are doing. I'm looking at takeaway capacity for natural gas. I'm looking at transport volumes of natural gas. And I'm looking at what the utility companies are saying. And everything that I'm looking at is really backing up the CapEx spend. And to say that these projects over the next decade, 80% of the electric load is going to be for data centers, to me, that's very bullish for NVIDIA, because they're the only game in town for the GPUs for the data centers. And most of the CapEx spend is going to these chips.
Yeah, and we can see it right here from 2015 to projected 2026. CapEx is going to be $300 billion across most of the companies per year.
And keep in mind that NVIDIA is also building a service aspect, which will end up being a fairly large business. But this is something where I don't think the NVIDIA run is anywhere near over. And I think that it doesn't look that expensive at the moment compared to its growth rate and its margins and how profitable it is. And I will not be shocked if we see NVIDIA 160 by the end of the year. I won't be shocked.
Are you officially calling that on my show? 160 is your target end of year?
I'm just saying I won't be shocked. But keep in mind, if NVIDIA misses, and if they come out with guidance that isn't spectacular or on point of what everybody thinks it's going to be, I could also see NVIDIA go into 75. So,
can you give me a number? Can you give me a target on NVIDIA?
I don't know. I mean, I won't be shocked if it's 160 at the end of the year.
But it seems like you like that number, 160, for some reason.
I mean, I like 175 better.
I like 200 better than 175.
I mean, I like 200 better than 175, but I mean, look, the bottom line is there is not a competitor on the high end space. We are not talking about computer gaming right now. Okay. Obviously, AMD is a competitor in the computer gaming space, but on the GPU space for training models and for what these big companies are spending money on, NVIDIA is the only game in town. And that's not changing anytime soon. And I really think that the fear that I had about Amazon, Alphabet, and Microsoft creating their own chips, I don't think it's as big of a fear anymore. And I think that that's going to shift to workloads on their services aspect, not training AI models. That's just my opinion.
Explain that. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think that Amazon will make chips that helps them do workloads the way that they want it done to support AWS. I don't think it's going to be to power their generative AI or train their LLMs. I think they're going to stick with the NVIDIA chips for that, and that they'll augment their other chips with in-house chips for other types of things. That's just my opinion. I don't see this NVIDIA bull run being over at the moment. And I don't think we're at the point where it becomes a boom bust cycle the way DRAM is. I think that we're probably a year or two off before we see that.
So this is NVIDIA's free cash flow compared to its stock price. Last 12 months, basically 40 billion of free cash flow. Stock is running with the free cash flow. So, I mean, you are right. If the free cash flow keeps increasing, which is contingent upon the CapEx continuing to be spent, which is what you're seeing from these energy companies, then the stock theoretically should continue to follow the free cash flow. And that means it's going to go higher.
Yeah. It's such a great company. I've never seen a company grow this quickly, this fast.
And it's either, if you believe that it's all fake, then it has, like, what is your response to the people that say this AI thing is fake, given the energy stuff you're seeing?
Do we really have to have this conversation? I feel like it's not worth our time to even address it.
So you think there's no chance AI is a bubble or it's fake?
Zero. And I don't like talking in certainties because nobody can be certain about anything. But it's pretty clear that the largest companies are spending ridiculous amounts of money building this out because they're in a race to monetize it. And anybody who listens to any conference calls understands what these companies are looking to embed AI in and how it's going to transform business. There is a 0% chance in my mind that this is a fad or this is fake. Same thing as cloud computing. People during the beginning of cloud computing, oh, we're going to be on-prem. Why do we need to host anything in the cloud? Yeah, look how much stuff's hosted in the cloud now. Same thing.
Look, I agree with you. I don't think it's a fad. And I think Palantir earnings, Jose made a good point on the show yesterday. Palantir is the software element showing the use case of AI. And if there's more and more results from companies like them showing it, at least in the enterprise, Tesla, obviously with FSD, robotics, it's going to be hard to imagine NVIDIA not getting a ton of momentum from all that spend. Christian, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says what they're coming out with right after the elections is going to be mind-blowing. AI is not a bubble. I work with it every day.
We haven't even seen how AI is going to touch our lives. You're going to see every big company from Salesforce to Workday to SAP, any company that has an enterprise scale software, you will see them come out with AI solutions for their services. This is going to be huge. I mean, just look at what Zuckerberg said on the conference call about how they're going to have AI. What was the phrase that he used? It's AI something for the businesses to interact with people on social media and answer questions about their products. I mean, this is going to be big, very big.
Yeah, and again, now if the CapEx wasn't there, I would agree that there's some problems. Well, here's a question for you. What if CapEx slows down in Q3? Is that a bad sign at the end of the day for the broader AI thesis? Like, what if Google said instead of spending 15 billion?
CapEx isn't just GPUs. So if you reword that into CapEx spend into GPUs, then yes, that's bad.
Right.
But CapEx slowing down can mean several things. So we need to be very specific in that.
Yeah, because so CapEx could be buildings and chips, right? So if the slowdown
yes,
is
property, plant, equipment. So
you're sipping the Kool-Aid, you're in. You
AI
are
yeah, thanks, Victor. AI agents is what Zuckerberg said.
right. Yeah, and Zuck said it's going to take a couple of years. So
Yeah. They're not stopping spending anytime soon. Amazon, look at Amazon's CapEx. Amazon's been spending 45 to 60 billion a year for years on CapEx. They're not slowing down, especially not now, because the first company that slows down puts themselves in a position to fall behind. And these companies have a blank check.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, dude. These guys, they need growth and they need a narrative of growth. They know that, right? They're so big. If they don't have a narrative of growth, stock's just not going to move. They know AI is the narrative of growth. So I think they would think twice before cutting CapEx spend, because they know that could be interpreted potentially as like,
well, the only way that they're going to cut CapEx spend is when they have enough GPUs to do what they need to do.
But then we'll see we'll see the monetization when they have enough GPUs, hopefully, to justify.
Yeah, you would hope. And who knows? None of these companies have said when they're going to have enough GPUs. And we know that Zuck said Llama 4 is going to take 10x the compute to train than Llama 3.
Which is insane.
Which is insane.
That is correct. Okay, so what is your goal for NVIDIA, the stock? And then we'll talk about some macro stuff by the end of the year.
I think me personally, I need a couple more quarters of data to see what it looks like, but it's pretty interesting right now. I'm looking to see if any of the updates are here, and I tell you, 2024 forward PE of 45, 2026 of 3250, and I'm sorry, 25 of 3250 and 26 of 2850. That is pretty big growth. I mean, you're looking at a 39% year over year growth rate on earnings next year. So I don't know. This is a company that I've seen crazier valuations. I mean, I got to tell you, I think I'd rather own NVIDIA than Tesla at the moment, even though I own both.
Speaking of that, we haven't heard your thoughts on Tesla in a long time. What's the rundown on this one? What would you buy more? Are you bullish? What are you thinking?
I mean, I'm not actively buying more. I have options that are open, and let's see what he says on the next earnings call. Let's see when the bot comes out. That's why I'm in it.
Do you at all care about the energy part of Tesla, given you're so So is that an energy play for you outside of Southern Company, NextEra, et cetera? No, really? Why?
No, but I care about it.
But it's not as important to you, in your opinion?
I mean, not in my Tesla thesis. It's a great added bonus. My thesis revolves around Optimus. And the reason I say I don't necessarily care about the energy so much is because if I didn't think Optimus was going to be as big as it could be, I wouldn't be investing in Tesla.
Right.
So the energy, I care about it because I think there's going to be a big need for the battery storage and what he's doing. But that's just the low-hanging fruit. That's not why I'm in Tesla.
Okay, I want to show you something, and maybe today's the day on the market close where you, it's good to be humble, is what I'm trying to say. And humility is a very attractive quality for any human being.
What I do?
Well, it's not what you did, it's what you didn't do. And for the past 7 months, you've been telling me that the Vision Pro has not been a failure. We got a new headline on Apple. They're trying to make a tabletop home device.
Yeah, I saw something about this.
iPad-like display with a robotic limb. $1,000 they're probably going to charge. 2026 it'll launch. They have a team of several hundred people dedicated to making it. Basically, it's going to look like this. So my question to you is, are you finally ready to say that
Wait, go back to that picture. I didn't see that.
this is like a mock butter like thing, digging things up. But like the point is, are you finally ready to say the Vision Pro is stupid and this is also
does this say that it's replacing the Vision Pro?
No, but it embodies the stupidity of the product.
That's my answer. No.
But you agree this is stupid, right? Like this is not worth several hundred people. I'd rather they work on making AI better on the iPhone when it launches in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
I mean, what's the use case for this? Are they
interesting. We're talking about use cases with hardware products. It seems like I raised the question about the use case of the Vision Pro.
Yeah, and I told you the use case of the Vision Pro.
No, Steve. You told me the use case was you will virtually scan someone at a meeting and you will see all their socials like it's Black Mirror or something. And no one agrees that that is a use case.
What I told you is in several iterations down the road, when it is the size of the glasses that you and I are wearing, it will theoretically have a lens where it can scan a person in front of you and it will bring up all their social media content, their LinkedIn profile.
That is creepy. That is so creepy.
How can you think that? So think about this. You have facial recognition now, okay? So if you took my picture and then you upload that into Google, you could potentially find my accounts.
Yeah, but me looking at you does not give me a digital representation.
What I'm saying is that it is an iteration of a virtual assistant that can go a step further than Siri and have Siri integrated with it. But I also said that with the Vision Pro, I think content is the play there, and owning sports teams and setting up virtual tickets at concerts and stadiums and that type of thing.
I know, and I'm telling I'm telling you, you are wrong on that, and it's time.
I could be. I think we still have a little bit of time left, but I could be wrong. And I don't know what the use case is for that robotics thing.
There is no use case.
There are other companies that are making full robotics for restaurants, and that doesn't seem like that is what Apple is doing. So I have no idea what they are doing with that.
Okay, so then let's broadly. I mean, I'm just joking around here.
Nor would I buy that. Like, think about this.
I agree.
If I have the option of a full robot or a limb, I'm buying a robot. That limb can't walk and do the laundry.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on Apple right now? I mean, is this something that's attractive here, or how do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think Apple's very attractive.
And it's because the AI phone is where you think.
Yeah, you're going to see the biggest upgrade cycle we've ever seen over the next 2 to 3 years. And I think that if you look at what Services is doing, Services is probably going to be in their 2025 fiscal year, $100 billion run rate business on revenue. And I think that the whole AI component can potentially add a new level of revenue for Services, because they could probably have a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3 AI assistant, where tier 1 is free, and then you get added benefits for different levels. So
they're gonna have to really juice up those offerings, though, to get.
Well, yeah, of course.
Because I mean, again, and this comes down to use cases. Like, really show.
I agree.
What the use case is to get people to care.
I agree, but I still think it's very interesting.
So you're in a little bit of a pickle, and the pickle's name is not dill. Get it? Get it? The dill pickle.
Is it Starbucks?
No, it's Palantir.
Starbucks?
It's Palantir. You're drinking your Starbucks though, so that Starbucks did good this year. We'll talk about Starbucks in a bit, but so you got some cover calls on Palantir. A lot of people do, so it's not just you. How are you navigating this? Do you think it's getting overvalued here?
I'm not going to comment on if it's overvalued or not. I want it to keep going up. But yeah, I mean, look, I rolled them and I had to roll my call options out pretty far, but it is what it is. Part of the game.
Do you think this run makes sense, up 93% year to date? Does the growth justify?
I'll take advantage of having to roll them. It's all good. And if it retraces and if it happens to go back down to 26, probably going to be in a position where I can reverse roll, double, triple, quadruple dip, and, it's fine. All good.
Are you thinking of adding more to Palantir along with NVIDIA?
Not at this level. I
Okay,
was.
so you're basically admitting you don't like the price.
No, that's not.
Yeah.
I.
Which is fair. It's fair.
I was adding at 23 or so, 24,
So
23.
Yep.
Like last month or the month before, whenever it was.
May. Yeah.
Right now, I really think there's a lot of percentage-based upside in Nvidia going into and after earnings. And look, Palantir can keep running. Right now, I think Nvidia there's no flat line. It's either boom or bust. And I don't think this quarter is going to be a bust. And it very well could, but I just don't think it's going to. But if Palantir retraces, I would be adding more.
Yeah.
But you know how I feel. I will always be a Palantir shareholder until I die. Now, that's not saying that.
Can we show them the thing you got?
I mean, it's
really cool. So Steve got a physical share of Palantir. And it's really cool. And on it, there's the quote. Obviously, our performance in U.S. commercial is extraordinarily, some would say, bombastic. That's cool, man. That's cool. Did you see the merch store that they came out with? Did you see that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I want the gray hat, but I don't understand why they couldn't just say gray hat. What color is gray?
What did they say on it?
I don't know. There's 3 stupid names.
No, I think they have like dark mode, light mode, or something. They have some funny names on it.
Yeah, it's stupid names. Just say freaking black, white, and gray. I want a gray hat.
I'll get you a hat.
I'm happy to pay for the hat. I mean, it's like the guy this morning. I go in to get my eggs. And he's like, Steve, can I buy you breakfast? I'm like, no. I'm like, you're running a business. I'm happy to support you.
Who wanted to buy you breakfast?
The guy who owns the shop I go.
What? Is a friend of yours or something?
No, I just go in there all the time.
So he wanted to buy you breakfast.
Yeah, because of the amount of times I go in there.
Sounds kind of gay.
No, he's a business owner.
Guy wants to buy me breakfast. I'm like, oh, what else do you want? What's going on here? What's
I call in my order when I get to my office. I walk and I go get it, and I walk to my office.
Okay, speaking of breakfast, Starbucks up 20 billion. Is this justified at all with a new CEO?
I haven't had time to look into it. I don't know. I like it. I'm a shareholder.
I know you like it, but like, do you think this makes any sense to get a CEO and this goes up 20 billion in a day?
I mean,
kind of doesn't make sense to me, but I'm curious what you think as a shareholder.
Well, it's the ex guy from Chipotle. People are thinking this is going to be big things, thinking that they're going to revitalize their operations.
So what do you think he can do, and what knowledge does he bring to revitalize Starbucks?
Dude, I have no idea. I've never been in the food service business. I have no idea.
I think he's going to bring out a breakfast burrito. And
I don't know. So I don't know what I don't know. Same with everybody. I've never been in that industry. There's a lot of things about that business that I like and a lot of things about the business I don't like. And I think that what Jason Calacanis said is the best idea I've heard so far.
What did he say?
If you saw his tweet, to do like a $25 a month
subscription
plan or subscription where it gets you to the front of the line, front of the queue for ordering, all that stuff. Whatever you do, $20 a month, $25 a month, whatever it is.
So like a Six Flags Fast Pass.
So just think about it like this: highly dense areas. I go to Starbucks quite frequently. Depending on what time you go, you're either in and out because there's nobody online, or they're making a ton of drinks and you're standing there for 5 to 7 minutes waiting. Sometimes even longer when the teenagers are in there asking for 3 pumps of this, 4 pumps of this, a shot of this. And I would be happy to spend $20 a month on a thing that puts my drink first in queue.
Interesting.
Because I don't want to stand there for 10 minutes when they're making all those drinks. And sometimes I just decide that I freaking want Starbucks and I didn't already pre-order it. So I think that would be something that would be very low cost for them to implement and something that could be a good revenue driver. And what's the margin on that? Think about that.
Right.
They're just selling a service on that part.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Okay, so Starbucks, you're okay with that, and I guess we'll see how he transforms it. The Nike
Yeah,
thing,
I mean, do you go to Starbucks?
no, I don't.
All right, they redid the one near me, and they completely streamlined their operations with where everything is laid out. So they're definitely more efficient. And I will say they are upgrading their coffee machines, so it's no longer the pour over. Every individual cup is fresh ground coffee. And I think that they have streamlined it as much as they can with where they put everything. So they definitely cut down the time to make drinks. But I don't know how much more because, once again, it's a numbers game. It's how quickly can you make everything, and it's a volume based. So I think you have to add a service plan to really increase revenue because it's all about how many drinks you can sell.
What if? Never mind. It's a dumb idea.
What?
I'm thinking of what company they could acquire to inorganically grow, but that would be synonymous with the brand. And I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe there's maybe that's why they brought this Chipotle guy here. Maybe there's something that they're looking at.
So here's the only thing that I would add. Starbucks are not open 24 hours a day.
Correct.
What I would consider, and I know that this is not an original. Nah, I've never been there, so I don't know if their stuff's good or not.
Dutch
They don't
Bros.
have it near me. Dutch Bros. But I always thought the idea, and this has been talked about in the past, that's interesting, is turning Starbucks into a wine bar at night, at like 9 or 10 at night.
And
Alcohol.
alcohol.
But not beer and stuff, like wine. I mean, maybe craft beer. Craft beer is pretty big, but not turn it into a bar. Turn it into like an upscale, trendy place. And I don't know. I've always thought that idea is somewhat interesting.
I don't hate that idea. 24 hours.
No, not 24. 9 to like 1 a.m. Do like wine and beer and get a different crowd in there. Because look, not many people are drinking coffee at 10 o'clock at night. And you have the retail space anyway. So I think you got to figure out a way to drive traffic in there in hours when it's dead. And if that's the dead space, alcohol is a nighttime thing.
I don't hate that idea. I don't hate it at all. It's just their brand is very synonymous with coffee, so it might be.
It is. Coffee martinis.
Espresso martinis. Yeah, I had an espresso martini for the first time last year. It was great.
I don't think it's a horrible idea. I think between the subscription and doing alcohol at night could be very interesting. They don't have to do it at everyone, but I think the ones in large populated areas, such as New York City, LA, Miami, I think it could work. Chicago, big metropolitan areas.
Someone said turn it into a strip joint. I've never been to a strip joint, so I would like if my local Starbucks was a strip joint. Could you? That's kind of funny. Imagine that's what he does. He's like, all right, we're gonna be a strip club now. Okay. I would buy the stock, dude, if they did that. That would be fun. Okay, let me ask you about this acquisition in the context of Apple. What do you think about Apple buying Peloton?
Dumb idea.
Why is it a dumb idea?
Waste of money. Who cares?
It's $1 billion. Why is it a waste of money?
It's a waste of money. I mean, sure, they can buy it and, hold on one sec.
I think
they make so much money that they can buy and it doesn't freaking matter. The problem is it's Peloton.
That is true. Chris, I'm sending you. Chris wanted to say something about StreamYard. Chris, if you're listening, I'm going to send you on WhatsApp and join through the StreamYard because my phone's about to die, so I'm not going to be able to call you. But
really think about that. Like, I am sure Peloton is great and people love doing their Peloton. Okay. But a lot of people, it's not replacing the gym. And I just don't see how it's going to help Apple because it's going to be annoying to build. It's going to be annoying to ship, annoying to manufacture. And how much are they really going to get? How many more subscriptions are they going to get with Apple Fitness owning Peloton? I don't know that it matters. Now, if they want to buy it just to fortify Apple Fitness, fine, whatever. $5 or $2 billion doesn't matter. Money that you can burn. But that's more just from fortifying a current subscription business. I don't know that it really adds much value.
Yeah, look, I don't think Peloton's the best business, but I do think Apple needs to grow, and the AI iPhone upgrade cycle, hopefully that happens. But if it doesn't, if they're not growing internally, they have to do some types of acquisitions. And Tim Cook has been very against acquisitions for a while.
It's called sports teams.
I would love to see them buy the Patriots. I would love to see that.
Buy MSG Corporation. You get the Knicks and you get the Rangers. Publicly traded company. Buy Manchester United. Buy the Braves. And then take all that off-network TV and put it into Apple TV. And then they should buy Warner Brothers Discovery and take all those channels and all that content and put it on Apple TV. And then have different tier plans for Apple TV. I mean, content's where it is.
I agree. Content.
Look at YouTube. YouTube is huge.
All right, let's get Chris on. He has some thoughts about Starbucks. Chris, you're live.
I'll just say something quick because I'm driving right now and I might get cut off because there's a lot of overpasses. But Starbucks has a problem that's similar to all the other major food retailers. The prices that they've been able to raise over the last maybe 4 years have been absolutely crazy. There's tons of other options out there for the consumer to go to. Everyone wants to go to Starbucks, but no one wants to pay this outrageous prices. They need to lower their prices. They need to cut costs where they matter. And that's about it. That's really it. They really need to get more people back in the stores again. They need to bring value back to customers, and that'll solve your demand and growth problems. It's simple. It's not as complicated. And I think that's the exact approach that this guy is going to use. He used the same thing at Chipotle. One of the chief complaints at Chipotle was these employees were scrounging on food. They were just not putting enough food on the thing like they used to. He said, no, let's change that up. And now sales are going back up again because people find value in Chipotle meals again because they're like, oh, they're actually putting food back on the Chipotle bowls again, as opposed to trying to be stingy about it, you know? So you don't make up margins by denying customers what they want. You make up margins by streamlining things. And I think if Starbucks can streamline things while at the same time bring more value to the customers, their growth will reaccelerate and they'll get back to normal again. And they have to figure out how to compete effectively in China and, you know, broaden out their market. India is still a big potential for them if they can do it right. And I think eventually they'll figure it out. It's not super complicated.
Would you buy Starbucks here or no?
I'm still waiting on some of their plans going forward. I do think the CEO is actually very consumer focused, which is amazing. That's typically what you want with a lot of these CEOs at big time consumer brand companies, because there are so many like pencil pushers that they put into these CEO positions where they're just like, okay, this number makes this sense and this number and so that. And I would bet some money on it. The only thing is I want to actually see a concrete plan that this guy puts out. And it's same thing with like Alex Chris. You remember when Alex Chris came out, everyone was super bullish. I want to kind of see like the actual like plans before I make any real money. My wife owns some shares because she loves Starbucks. I mean, like used to. Shut up. You still love Starbucks. You go there every other day. So Starbucks is still like.
Some of their new drinks are bad though.
Yeah.
Out of the spicy one and the energy, those are all.
Yeah, well, that's why they're getting rid of this new CEO because that was a really dumb idea.
The spicy energy drink made no sense to me ever.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
This was like cayenne pepper at the bottom of the cup, and it's not good.
Yeah, and then there's like olive oil infused drinks. Like, bro, what the hell does olive oil have to do with coffee? Like, it was the most stupid things. I don't know what this guy was thinking. This new guy, maybe he was trying to figure out like, oh, maybe we broaden out people's taste. Bro, broaden out.
Dude, Chris, he was a brown too. And maybe that's why he did the spicy shit, because he was a brown.
Motherfucker probably doesn't even drink coffee. He drinks cha all day, every day, you know? So, like I said.
Yo, Browns need to stick to tech. Leave the coffee for white people. Like the Browns.
I agree. I totally agree. And this comes from a brown person. We have no business making decisions on coffee, bro. We like cha. We like that. Let's stick to what we know. Put the white man back in charge of Starbucks, and things will go back up again. All right, white people, y'all done really good with coffee. I believe in you. Keep doing your thing.
Okay, one last quick thing, Chris. I don't know if you heard the beginning of Steve's and I conversation, but
I was listening to the entire thing, man. Great podcast. Great job, Steve.
No, but so the question is, Steve thinks that all this energy demand means NVIDIA is going to the moon. Do you have any take on that?
Yes and no. In the short term, it totally makes sense. Long term, I think this is where we have to really, really like dig into like the unit economics of AI to figure out how this data center build out is actually going to be monetized. Because I mean, right now, yes, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, they're subsidizing everything in the hopes that this will be a revenue driver for them with all these companies spending money on AI products. The issue is if there's any sort of slowdown from the bottom where they don't recognize the value in AI and they start cutting back on new initiatives, that means that, eventually demand will kind of taper off, in which case now their CapEx will taper off along with it. So I think this is one of those areas where we have to be very careful on how we project things out. I think right now the market is very bullish on AI, and I think to some degree it's okay. But I'm not out of the camp that this is not a bubble. I think that right now valuations, especially among AI players, has gone a little bit frothy. But that doesn't mean that there's no long-term potential. I mean, this is how the internet was. The internet at one point was, oh my God, this is going to be the next biggest thing. And I totally agree. It was going to be the next biggest thing. And it did become the next biggest thing. But you always had years of consolidation that typically happens because, things got too frothy too quick. NVIDIA might be in the same boat. Who knows? They've got competition from the likes of AMD. They've got the likes of competition from the hyperscalers themselves, not having to pay the outrageous NVIDIA tax that they're paying right now by, being tied to their own ecosystem. So it's one of those things that you just, like I said, you're going to have to be very fluid on in terms of long-term investment in NVIDIA. I'm not there with you, Steve. I think NVIDIA is definitely going to have some more growth pains coming. And I think this drawdown in NVIDIA stock over the last 60 days was a clear indicator that the market is still bullish on AI, but they're nervously bullish on AI. So
yeah, I mean, Chris,
any sort of slowdown means that this thing is going to get chopped in half. Yeah.
Oh, and I said that earlier, but I'm only looking at NVIDIA for like a 1 or 2 year investment. Yeah. I think that's how much longer we have left in this before it becomes boom bust cycle the way DRAM did.
What are you pointing at?
The rest up so we can switch things.
No. I don't need to. I'm gonna keep driving, girl. We good.
Chris is about to run a stop sign right now.
I'm a little scared.
All right, Chris. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. See ya.
Bye.
It's interesting, man.
I mean, look, I agree with a lot of what he said, and I had said earlier that I think there's another 1 or 2 years of this, and then it becomes a boom bust cycle. But right now, there's just too much going on. So.
Hold on, you only think there's 2 years left of this?
No. I think there's 1 or 2 years left of this type of growth for NVIDIA. And then it becomes a boom bust cycle, becomes commoditized like DRAM from a hardware perspective. But
you don't think there's a 10-year vision for NVIDIA to be like a $10 trillion company?
I mean, there could be. I'm only looking at this from a 1 or 2 year perspective at the moment. That could change in a year from now, but still looks like the Blackwell demand is off the charts and they're not really slowing down. Yeah, I could update my investment thesis. But it also is going to depend on what they build out with services also, because they're actively doing more and more on that front, which could be huge. But yeah, like that comment, you're going to need a lot of these chips for robotics. So if Elon actually does what he thinks he's going to do, if Figure 8 ends up doing what they're doing, this could have a 10-year runway. I know that I want to be in it now, and I'm getting in late, but in a year or two, this could end up being a phenomenal investment.
Can you give me your updated thoughts on SoFi?
No.
Why are you so angry when I bring up SoFi? You're supposed to... Aren't you on SoFi Weekly? Do you even do that show anymore or no?
No.
We're more alike than you think. We're alumni of the SoFi Weekly podcast.
Well, I'm not in a good place right now with them. So
Damn,
No,
I just left the podcast before you. I just got off the train.
Well, it's not that I
Before you
left.
did.
I'm just, I was too angry last week to go on, and I'm too angry tonight to go on. And
Why are you angry? Is this still the business banking thing? That's it?
just angry. Just angry. I don't want to talk about this. I'm going to say something I shouldn't.
No, say it. No, this is Steve. Steve, you're in a safe place. All right. No one in this chat take Steve's comments and tell Tanner or Tevis. No one just keep it.
It has
between
nothing
us.
to do with them. It has to do with
No. I know you're not going to
say
say anything about them, but you might say something really bearish about SoFi, and then they start telling.
No, it's not bearish. I'm just not aligned with what just happened. It's going to take some time to really look into it. But I don't want to talk about it.
What happened that makes you not aligned?
No, let's talk about something else.
It's okay, dude. My chat's okay with it. Like, my chat knows I used to be bullish on SoFi, and now I'm like neutral.
I'm still very bullish on it. I'm just annoyed. That's all.
Annoyed about what?
Seriously?
Oh boy. All right. So SoFi did close at $7 today. Up about 1.3%. So besides SoFi, then we talked about PayPal. We talked Palantir. We do have a question from the chat. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but Danielle, thank you for the $10 super chat. Steve, are you still bullish on XRP?
Admit, am I still bullish on XRP?
Well, my messages have like 7 videos that I have to watch about XRP. So yeah,
I'm actually very annoyed that Amit will not look into Ripple. I am very annoyed at this.
So can you give us, we're not going to spend a lot of time with it. Can you give us a 30-second explanation, like we're in 3rd grade, why Ripple is something to look into?
They have the potential to overhaul the global financial system in a way that Bitcoin maximists could only wish they could do.
And you genuinely believe this?
Yeah, because it's actually happening.
But like, it sounds like a conspiracy. You used to like overthrow the financial
system. See, I don't know. Like, would you say I'm more right than wrong?
Are you more right wing than left wing? Is that what you're asking?
No. Am I more right than wrong?
Yeah, no, you're more right than wrong. Yes.
Okay. So why wouldn't you look into Ripple if I'm telling you that I really do believe in this?
Because it's a meme coin.
Listen, I have a pretty good track record. Okay.
I'm not saying, but with stocks, not with crypto. Right?
Ripple's a company though.
But XRP is the only point of Ripple, right? Like,
Ripple is a company. Please look into them. And XRP is the token in their ecosystem for the XRP ledger. Please look into it. You will not be disappointed. I promise you.
Do you think in 10 years, people are legitimately transacting on the XRP chain and XRP's value goes up because of all those transaction volumes?
I think XRP has a lot of potential. I've been in XRP for a long time. So one of the only ones I care about. And what Brad Garlinghouse has done and what they continue to do, and with this lawsuit being over, if you read about and listen to his interviews, and you look at the banks they have partnerships with, and you look at the financial institutions that utilize its services, and then you look at what happened with BRICS, I really do think that they have huge potential, because when you actually understand how the SWIFT banking network actually works and all the intermediary fees and how long it actually takes to transfer money overseas and have everything settle, this has huge potential.
All right. I did say we have to do a full podcast on this one day, like on a Saturday. You and me just go deeper into it. But
you need to get somebody else on, not me, to really do the deep dive. And there are people that are so much more intelligent on this subject that can explain it way better than me.
Okay.
So I'll send you some names of people who really understand this.
Okay. DOJ trying to break up Google. Good thing or bad thing that they're trying to do this? And does it affect Google's trajectory?
From a competitive standpoint, it's probably a good thing from a competitive standpoint on search.
Okay.
You could argue it's a monopoly.
I mean, it is a monopoly. That's obvious. We know that. I
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Some would say some of the parts is way better for shareholder value. You unlock YouTube value and other things. I don't know. I think that if Alphabet feels that there is a good chance that the government is going to win and break them up, I think that they should just come to a deal and do it on their own terms and make a proposal to spin off whatever units it is and get ahead of it, because the last thing that I want as a shareholder is for the government to dictate how a breakup would go. But I don't know. On the flip side of that, I don't think Alphabet necessarily set out to be a monopoly. And on a pro-America agenda, I want our technology companies to be the best. And I think that breaking up Google hurts us in the long run.
So do you think that they will actually, because if they do that, I feel like Amazon and Meta are up next, right?
It'll be the biggest breakup since AT&T Mobile.
What about Microsoft in the 90s? Wasn't that a bigger breakup? Oh no, that wasn't as big as AT&T.
Happened nearly as big as Mobile with AT&T.
When did that one happen?
That was what, the 70s or 80s, I think.
And what was the logic on that one?
I mean, it was the whole telephone wireline telephone industry. I mean, if you look into Mobile and all the patents that they have, crazy. But I don't know. I could go either way on Alphabet, because when you really think about it, okay, Android isn't necessarily a monopoly in the US because of iOS. Now, global stage, I think it's way bigger than iOS.
Yeah.
You'd have to pull up the numbers from Stack Counter. Cloud, they're not a monopoly. They're not a monopoly with YouTube. So I would think the only thing you can say they're monopoly with is search. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to argue how you can say that they are a true monopoly, because look at advertising. They're certainly not a monopoly in advertising, because it used to be a duopoly with Meta, but now you got Amazon coming in, generating tens of billions of dollars. You have all these other companies that are getting into the advertising game. So I don't know. We'll see. We know that Lena Khan does not like big tech.
Do you still think Amazon is the best Mac 7 pick out of all of them?
I really like Amazon.
So here's one. I want to say this to the chat. I saw this morning. You can only choose one for the next decade: Apple, Microsoft.
Oh, don't do this to me.
I mean, it's better than the Mac 7 one because we get rid of NVIDIA and Tesla from the conversation. But out of these four, I know you'd pick Amazon. So just going through it, right? Microsoft.
I don't know that I would, because Microsoft is so compelling.
Microsoft?
They're all very compelling.
But
so I can make a case. I can make a case for any of them.
So pick one.
I can't. I own 3 out of the 4.
Steve, this is why you own like 1 trillion stocks, because you can't pick one. Like if you had to pick, your life depended on it, pick one. I'm going with.
All right. If I had to pick, it wouldn't be Amazon. And here's why. Because the rest of the business outside of AWS is too low margin.
But isn't that a call option on AWS at the end of the day? The rest of the business, like AWS itself, is worth $2 trillion. Like legit, AWS is worth $2 trillion. The rest you're just getting for free, basically.
Okay, how is AWS worth $2 trillion?
I mean, this is what people say. The Amazon bulls. It's doing 100 billion TTM. You put a price to sales multiple on that would get you to $2 trillion, like 30, 40.
Why are we using price to sales?
I'm just saying it's one metric you could use to justify.
Stupid metric.
Also, the growth is at 20%. If you put a reasonable PE on that, you get at least to 1.5 if you don't want to get 2 trillion, so, which is not crazy.
It wouldn't be Alphabet, because I don't know how a government breakup would impact it. So there's just too many variables. It would be Apple or Microsoft. And I think.
Don't say Apple. Don't do it.
Microsoft may be more compelling than Apple at the moment, because.
I mean, it's more than. It's just more than compelling. It's pretty obvious. I mean, you
I
got an
don't
iPhone.
see any. I mean, I don't see any. You think about enterprise services, Microsoft has it on lock.
I agree with you. I agree. It's not going anywhere.
No, it's phenomenal company.
Let me ask you
They're
this
all
question.
phenomenal.
Let me ask you this question. We were talking about Berkshire in the morning. So Berkshire's, they sold out of Snowflake, and the CEO of Geico that Berkshire owns is the same guy who bought Snowflake. And it just seems like, they bought Snowflake. Now they're using it in the software. Then they fired a lot of the Snowflake employees. And it got into this broader conversation about Berkshire missing tech. What is your general thoughts on Buffett basically
They've
missing
always
everything in
missed
tech?
tech. That's nothing new.
But the only reason Berkshire is up in the past 5 years and comparatively against like other benchmarks is because of Apple. So
I wouldn't say that.
Really, you would say Chevron, American Express, and Coca-Cola are carrying
Take their
the weight.
stock portfolio out of it. Look at their metrics in their operating businesses.
No, but the multiple that the street's giving Berkshire is because Apple has done 7x in the past 8
I'm
years.
just saying, look at their operating businesses.
My point is Berkshire's performance is primarily based on Apple. So I'm generally want to get your thoughts. What do you think about him being anti-tech or thinking that catch-up is more predictable than search? Therefore, they went the Kraft Heinz route versus the Google route.
I mean, he likes businesses that he understands. He understands businesses like Coca-Cola and banking and insurance, and tech's never necessarily been his thing. Energy, you can't knock that. The guy has built one of the most incredible companies there is.
No, it's not
And
knocking it, but it's not knocking it. But I'm trying to get your perspective on: do you think it is a bad thing to ignore technology in this decade? And
yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest bang for the buck return is in technology. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't make money when you avoid it, because he's proved that you can.
Yeah. And the other reason we talked about this,
bringing up the quarterly report.
Okay, because we looked at QQQ's returns over the past 5 years. It beats every single fund manager in the market. Everyone. If you took $1 million in 2014 and put it into Bill Ackman, Berkshire, QQQ beats it. It just got me thinking, like, what is the value of these fund managers if tech is what dominated the past decade, probably going to dominate the next decade? Like, what are you paying them for to manage if they can't beat?
Yeah, there's a little secret. It's called, I don't even know if I want to say it, but
yeah, go ahead, say it.
Look, I think that it is incredibly hard to beat the market. And look, some people can have very good years. We know people that do very well. I think that on a long-term basis, it is harder to beat the market than what people see on the surface on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And I think that if all the hedge funds were required to show their profitability on a percentage basis annually, I think that there would be very few that beat the NASDAQ. Now, I don't have any data to back that up. That's just an opinion.
No, you're correct. We looked at data.
But I think playing 10-2 or 15-2 and 20-2, to pay those levels, you really need to be making your investors money. And I don't know. That's why indexing has gotten so big, because you never are in a position where you miss the next best thing, because you're always getting that tailwind from whatever companies are getting the most growth. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Indexing is pretty awesome. But back to Berkshire, I'm looking at Q2, and where is their freaking dividend income? It says all right, so their net earnings outside of their investments, it looks like, and I could be wrong but I'm pretty sure I'm reading this correctly, is okay. Investment gains was 23 billion. It looks like their net earnings for the quarter was $30.5 billion.
Okay, and 23 out of that was their investments, which is Apple.
No, It's not. It's not.
I mean, if 7 billion was their insurance business and stuff, that's fine. But the majority of it is Apple.
Hold on.
I mean, I just think if they didn't have Apple over the last 10 years, what would they look like? Because in 2010, Buffett was struggling. Kraft Heinz made a ton of mistakes. Like they were not in the best position, and then Apple really brought them back to light.
I wish they broke this out differently. I really do. So, okay, their net earnings, it says in 2024 on the cash flow statement is 43.3, and it says their investment gains are 25.7. So
a little bit more than half.
So 17 billion or so in the first 6 months has been made from their operating businesses.
Are you reading net income? That's net income?
I mean, it says their net earnings is 43.3. Net earnings is net income.
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's profit. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And it
43
says
billion of profit
in 6 months. And it says the investment gains, which we're going to assume is Apple and whatever else, is 25.7. So they made roughly $17 billion in 6 months from their operating businesses. Boring companies like See's Candy and Geico and Fruit of the Loom make money.
Yeah, no, that's fine. There's nothing. No, there's nothing wrong with that.
So can you not invest in tech and make money? Yeah, Berkshire is a great example of that because they make a ton of money without tech. They just make more money with tech.
That's my point.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you that you should be in tech.
Yeah. I mean, again, this comment from Henry, imagine if you bought Microsoft instead of Coca-Cola or Amazon instead of AMX. Like that's where Berkshire becomes the greatest. That's why Warren Buffett, he's already the GOAT, but he becomes the GOAT. I mean, if he gets tech in the 90s or in the early 2000s, it's over, right?
I don't know that that's but you got to look at where he bought Coca-Cola at versus where Coca-Cola is now.
Yeah, but
and how much those dividends have compounded. So that's not, you can't make that statement right off the cuff like that.
I feel you there, but if he sold out of Coke, which hasn't really grown in the past 10 years, and put it into Microsoft.
Yeah, over the past 10 years, but he didn't just buy Coke 10 years ago.
Yeah, he gets a nice dividend from it, Steve, but we're talking about exponential gains in some of these tech companies. That's different than a nice little dividend from Coke, you know? Or is it, he could have went all in on Cisco and messed up, right? So that's another option, right? But I think he was afraid. I said this on the market, but I think he was afraid of becoming Cathie Wood, which bet on a lot of tech that ended up being trash.
It's not in his wheelhouse.
It's not any. Yeah.
Look, there's a reason why the guy loves Occidental Petroleum. He believes in oil. It's what he knows. Berkshire Energy is a huge entity.
What do you think about Rocket Lab?
I don't know enough about it.
It's up.
I look, I looked at the financials when Matt was telling me to look at it. And I told him the same thing I'm going to tell you. I hate the financials. I don't know enough about it. I don't understand it. I have other things.
Wait, hold on. What is there not to understand? It's rockets.
Okay, I don't understand.
They go into space. That's it.
Okay, with the amount of contracts that SpaceX has, I think it's something that I don't want to take my time and do due diligence and try to understand how they're going to monetize it down the road. I don't see it, and I could be missing something huge here. I just don't see it.
I mean, it's just a very big TAM, and if they're a B
it could be.
If they're a D player,
there's other things that I'm more interested in, like Palantir.
Interesting.
Nvida, Amazon, Meta.
Yeah, but again, those companies are much more market cap weighted expensive than a $2 billion rocket.
Do I care about market cap or do I care about percentage-based gains?
I'm just saying.
Don't care about market cap.
If SpaceX goes to $1 trillion, I don't think Rocket Lab's stuck at $2 billion.
If I think Meta is going to $800 a share, and it's at $550 now.
Okay, but what's easier, Steve? Rocket Lab from 6 to 12, or Meta from 400?
You can't think about it like that.
Absolutely, you can think of it like that.
What are you talking about? 100% is 100%. Doesn't matter where the stock price is.
Yeah, but if I don't think Meta's going to 800, like
I didn't give a time frame.
But I'm saying if Rocket Lab gets to a double quicker, then it does matter. Like that's a percentage gain that takes in the opportunity cost of time, and that warrants a little bit more research, at least in my opinion.
Can
Also because
Rocket
Matt keeps yelling about it, so we have to keep researching.
Can Rocket Labs scale? Sure. I don't know their business well enough to make an educated guess. I understand these other businesses to a degree where I feel comfortable investing in them. And I do think that we could see Meta at 650 or so by the end of the year. And I do think that they can get to 750 next year. So, I'd rather be in something like that. I'd rather be in Amazon.
Any thoughts on
transfer?
Any thoughts on SMCI or no?
I don't follow them. Don't have enough time.
Dell, do you care about that one at all?
Yeah, I think Dell's going higher.
Why?
It's the same reason I think HP's going higher. Same reason I think that Intel's a good buy. You have two big catalyst cycles with personal computing happening over the next 3 years. You got Windows 10 being sunsetted, and you're going to have to be forced to upgrade to Windows 11, and you're going to have AI chips coming out, and I think you're going to have a pretty big runway, and the server business. So I like Dell.
I was going to ask you about Intel. So why are you adding to this one?
Because when I look at what Amy Hood said on the Microsoft conference call about the spend going to GPUs and CPUs, and you start looking at all the data centers and that you need CPUs in the clusters with the GPUs, and then you look at Intel's server market versus AMD's server market, I think that Intel is a sleeper, and I don't think that we see a environment where Intel goes away. And I think that with the big upgrade cycles on computers, personal computers, desktops, laptops, even if AMD continues to close the gap and it's a 50-50 split, which nobody 5 years ago thought was going to happen, I think they can still do well because of servers and because of actually bringing the foundries online. So I think it's a play. I don't think it's going to become a $1 trillion company, but I think it can get back to being a couple $100 billion company.
Christian says ARM is for the data centers. x86 is dead.
Okay.
I love when Steve approaches a bear case against his bull case. He's just so confident. He's like, all right.
All right, we'll see.
You saw he just closed his eyes. He just did like you rolled your eyes, but your eyes were closed. I could feel the energy. So
no, I mean, look, a lot of people like ARM. Okay. It's not going to be Intel's the only server chip, but I think that the Intel server chip, the data that I look at, when you look at the high-end server chips, nobody is competing with Intel at the moment. Now that could change. That could change tomorrow. It could change in 6 months from now. But I just
what do you think about canceling student loans?
Let's not talk about that.
I wanted you to get into it, and I would share this right at the moment. I'd be like, yes, we got him to talk about something political. But the White House just tweeted that canceling the student debt of nearly 5 million Americans is very demure and very mindful. Any thoughts at all about student loan debt or no? No thoughts. All right, no thoughts. Got it. I tried, guys. I tried to get, he'll call me at 7 a.m. complaining about things in America, but he won't talk about it here. Grindr, have you done
750, not 7 a.m.
750, whatever. Have you done DD on Grindr or no?
No, I haven't had a chance yet. I mean, I think it's very interesting.
They had earnings. They grew 27% last quarter. They raised guidance.
Yeah,
nice. Not bad. All right. I think we talked about. I guess we didn't do any macro discussion, but like quickly, how do you feel about the CPI data under 3%? I mean, it seems like a rate.
I haven't had time to look through it yet.
Okay, but I think you would think a rate cut's baked in.
I know it came out. I haven't had time yet.
All right. Well, yeah.
I don't even know what the number was.
It's 2.9.
Was it really?
It's 2.9. It was below 3. Wow, you've really been in meetings all week, dude. It's 2.9.
No, dude, I've been busy. I haven't had time.
2.9. We're below 3. Retail sales data was up 1%. Unemployment came in lower than expected.
I mean, look, you're not going to get rent to really come down until you start getting rates to come down. So I think they were probably lower on a real basis when you take that out. So I think the Fed has to cut, so we'll see.
All right.
Pretty bullish on it.
That is it for us, guys. Thank you all for joining the market close. Everyone loves you, Steve, when you come on and eat this every Friday. So we look forward to it every single Friday. We'll be back next week. I'll have Palantir Weekly tonight at 11 p.m. So we'll have Palantir Weekly and we'll go through everything tonight. And we'll go from there. Steve, one more question for you. Have you seen The Office?
Yeah.
Do you like that show? Do you think it's like a really good show? Or
I've never seen every episode or even an entire season. I've seen an episode here and there. I mean,
okay,
what I've seen is funny, but I mean, I always find myself going back and watching Seinfeld again. So.
But you wouldn't like actually sit through and watch seasons of The Office. No. It's not that good enough for you.
No, it's not something that's on my list.
Okay, I have another question.
I have certain shows that I rewatch, and that's just not in the rotation. My rotation of rewatching shows is 5 shows. Because 6.
What are the shows?
7. 7 shows. All right, 7.
It's like the Mag 7, dude. You are indecisive, bro. That is your thing. Yeah. How did you end up with one woman? You are indecisive, man.
Entourage. Okay. And I guarantee you've never seen any of these shows.
No, I haven't.
Entourage.
I've seen Entourage. Yeah.
You have? Okay. Sopranos.
I've seen Sopranos.
Okay. 24.
I've seen 24.
Really?
That's with Kobe, right?
Wait, what?
What? Never mind. Keep going.
What did you just say?
That's with Kobe Bryant, because he wears 24. Okay.
I'll let that slide because I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan.
You're a Lakers fan? I didn't know you were a Kobe.
I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan. Huge.
Okay. What's after Kobe? Or not Kobe, 24.
Sons of Anarchy.
I heard of that, but I don't know what that is.
Burn Notice.
No, I never heard of that one.
Seinfeld.
I've heard of that one.
Animal Kingdom.
Okay, to be fair, I've never watched any of these. I've watched a couple episodes of Seinfeld, but
yeah, Billions also.
Dude, Billions is trash. By season 2, I was like, this is stupid. Why am I watching?
And I gotta say, Power is so good that I may have to make it like 9-show rotation because I've rewatched the first couple of seasons of Power so many times.
Okay, but I actually want to ask you about this real quick because I didn't know. This is something I knew I found about you. I didn't know you were that big of a Kobe fan. When did you? Why, like, Lakers got you into, or what got you into Kobe?
Because Kobe's will and determination, his skill is far superior than anybody except for Jordan. And the debate about who's better, there's no debate. It's Jordan than Kobe. Period.
So I'm going to ask you a question because I got to ask you this. I'll tell you.
And Steph Curry would be 3 at this point.
Okay, you're just a LeBron hater if you're not putting LeBron 3. But
I'm not a LeBron hater, but I just don't think he's in the top 3.
So
LeBron's an amazing player. He's just not top 3 for me.
Where were you when you found out the news that he passed?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I was like coaching some of my clients in debate, and I got the notification, and I just couldn't believe it. I was
I mean, if you look at, so there's a movie that you should watch, Kobe Bryant's Muse. Amazing. Like, you watch that, you gain a whole different respect for this guy.
What's it called?
Kobe Bryant's Muse, M-U-S-E. It's about when he tore his his Achilles tendon and rehabbed. I mean, this is such an amazing documentary. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And if you want to watch something on YouTube, the interview that he did with Patrick Bet-David, unbelievable.
Okay, but what was your reaction when you found out he passed? I mean, like, as a Kobe fan.
It was horrible. The fact that he passed away with his daughter, horrible. Horrible.
That was surreal, bro. Like, that was shit you see maybe in a movie. Like, you don't see that in real life.
Horrible. Tragedy.
Okay, so your top 5 is Jordan, Kobe, Curry, and then who's the other 2?
If I was going to build a 5-man team, it would be Shaq at center. That's not even a debate. People talk about Russell and Wilt. It was a different game back then. I don't think they could guard Shaq. I just don't. It's crazy to even think about that.
Shaq,
LeBron would potentially be my power forward because I think he's better than Tim Duncan's an interesting power forward to put up there. Very interesting because of his size, his agility. But I think Kobe's more versatile. I think LeBron's more versatile. So I would really consider LeBron at power forward. And then it would be Jordan, Curry, and Kobe.
Okay, that's fair.
It's a much different dynamic than a lot of people would say, but I think that that would be the best five-man team out there.
What are you doing this weekend?
Writing articles.
That's it? Nothing else?
So,
all right. I guess that is it for us, folks. Someone said ask you about Spud Webb. What's Spud Webb?
you know who Spud Webb is?
Wait, is that the guy in Star Wars?
No, he was like 5 foot and he could dunk in the NBA.
Oh, yeah, I know this guy. Yeah. He was awesome. I never watched him play, but I know about him. He's one of the shortest guys in basketball. I was a big basketball junkie dude, but I kind of grew out of it, but I used to really
watch that movie. You will love it. Love it.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being with us on a Friday afternoon. I'll be back on Sunday for the futures preview going into Monday. I think we'll have overnight trading on Sunday on Robinhood, so we'll be able to see some stock movement at 8 p.m.
I gotta go. I'll see you later.
All right. See you, Steve. Bye. Yeah, guys, I'll see you on Sunday, Palantir Weekly tonight, 11 p.m., and then Monday back with the market open. Next week is not that crazy of a week in the markets beside Jackson Hole. And then that's on Thursday, Friday, and then NVIDIA is the week after. So 2 more weeks left of August. And then we are done with this month. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Have a great weekend. We'll be back for Palantir Weekly tonight, and I will see you later again on Sunday night, 7:45 Eastern Standard. Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.